Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. It is exactly 8:35 a.m. and not a moment too soon. We're going to be talking with Maulana Hasan Labuschagne. He is the co-author of the Muslim Voters Guide. How should Muslim voters decide? And this, I think, is a very, very important piece of work. And for the first time, I've realized in a long while that Muslim voters are being urged to exercise their rights to vote, because I think this is a very crucial election. And I think that we need to be very circumspect when we place our crosses next to the party we would like to rule this country post the elections. How important is the Muslim vote? And apart from speaking with Maulana Hasan Labuschagne regarding what we should know about voting going forward as Muslims, I think we also should be very active regarding these spaces when we are given the opportunity to vote for our rights. I mean, we've just been out of the stranglehold of apartheid, 30 years of freedom. We're still finding our feet. We're taking baby steps, but I think we need to now take up our space in this area and in the country as a whole. Now, Maulana Hasan Labuschagne is the co-author of the Muslim Voters Guide, entitled How Should Muslim Voters Decide? He graduated with a BA International Relations from Stellenbosch University in 2013. He also graduated with an Alimia course at Darul Ulum Al Arabiya Al Islamia in Strand in 2022, and he's currently pursuing his BA Honours in International Relations at UNISA. Alhamdulillah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all your efforts, and may you be successful regarding your fields of study. Assalamu alaikum to you. Welcome to the program. Wonderful to have you on the show.
MashaAllah, it's my honor to be here.
Okay, I gave a very, very long introduction to our talk this morning. So let's kick off at the starting point. You co-authored this paper, Muslim Voters Guide. Who is the other author, and what motivated you guys to go down this route?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Sister Julie, the other author is Sheikh Anwar Jitam. He's an alim, he's a graduate of the Jamiat in Gauteng. He has also spent some time studying in Egypt, and he's very active in civil society. And he's a personal friend of mine, a very close personal friend. And in our personal time together, just having conversations on his last visit to Cape Town, we realized that, the elections are coming up. People are using very big and bold slogans about this election. You might have seen, people are saying 2024 is going to be our 1994. Slogans like that. Some go so far as to say that 2024 is going to be our Codesa. Slogans like this made us realize how important this particular election is, and that Muslims require a Sharia perspective on this. Muslims should be encouraged to stake their claim, to make their voices heard in this election, and that it should be done so within the boundaries that the Sharia has set for us. And, we decided we have to attempt to do something about it.
Subhanallah. How long did this take to put together? And also, you raise a very critical point there, talking about, and this is contained in the booklet, the role of the Sharia in a pluralistic society. And let that be our starting point.
Yes, so in terms of time, I believe we had the initial conversation that gave birth to the idea probably about 3 months ago already. But really, I would say in the last month was very much crunch time for us. So the majority of our intellectual and our intellectual efforts and time went into it during this last month. We've produced quite a staggering amount of work. which we managed to dilute into smaller sections. So the first segment of that work was released as the Muslim Voters Guide Part 1. How should Muslim voters decide? And then there will be further installments coming out before the elections, inshallah, this week as well. And then, yes, of course, we live in a pluralistic society. We realize this, but we also realize that our Sharia, the divine law that was given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, addresses all matter of issues, every issue under the sun at any given time, any given moment. And this includes politics and how we make our political decisions. And, the Sharia doesn't expect us to insulate ourselves and cut ourselves off from broader society. Rather, the impulse and the motivation from the Sharia is for us to be of benefit to all of mankind, to be that community which is most beneficial. And so this requires effort on our part to make ourselves visible, and to make ourselves visible and presentable in a positive light, by being activists, by standing for good, by standing for justice. And inshallah, we will see that increasingly in the days after the election, inshallah.
Ameen, thumma ameen. I think possibly not only Muslim voters, but the country at large, there is a lot of confusion. There are lots of little political parties that have sprung up all over the place, everyone promising similar outcomes, service delivery, I guess, jobs, employment, I suppose the rehauling of the education system. The president has just signed in the NHI. There's still a lot of controversy around that as well. But I think for us as Muslim voters, there is a bit of confusion. A lot of people, or some people, may still be leaning towards the ANC because of their stance on Palestine. How big an issue is that? And how is that going to sway the voters, given that the ANC has been painted or tainted with a brush of corruption and state capture, etc., etc., etc. So that is a huge issue for us, not only as Muslims, but I think the broader community as well.
Yes, look, any party that aspires to govern on a national level has to address international concerns as well, because a national government does have to have a foreign policy. So we see that all of the political parties in South Africa have been forced to take a stance on this, and they fall on either side. Some of them have unfortunately made the historic mistake of siding with apartheid and siding with Zionism, and others have been rather more enlightened or perhaps more opportunistic and have decided to stand on the right side of history, perhaps with a foresight that when this thing all blows over and when the chips fall and when Zionism falls, then we are going to be on the right side of history. And others with a sincere dedication to the Palestinian cause. So I believe as a Muslim community, let us give credit where credit is due. The ANC has historically been very much in solidarity with Palestine for the last few decades. This is not the first time they've, for instance, approached the ICJ. I believe it was in 2001 under Thabo Mbeki. They had given a presentation at the ICJ about the apartheid wall. So this is not the first time that they've shown their solidarity with Palestine, and I, for one, believe that it is sincere. But is that the major consideration in our, in voting? Should that be the major consideration for Muslims or for non-Muslims? And I would argue that it is a major consideration, but it's not the only consideration. It might even be your primary consideration if you're a values-based voter. But I believe when people make this argument that you are so concerned about Palestine, what about all the local issues? My friend and colleague Sheikh Anwar Jitami sums this up very well when he says we can walk and chew gum at the same time. So our dedication and commitment to fixing domestic issues does not mean that we neglect foreign policy and what's happening abroad.
Sheikh, let's go for our first ad break. Inshallah, when we come back, we're going to talk some more. And inshallah, I do hope that you will be able to stay with us till 9 o'clock, just before 9 o'clock this morning. There's lots to cover regarding the contents of this booklet, so please stay with us.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Maulana Timur will once again
Financial services only at Sapphire Global, your financial partner. If you are looking for Islamic Sharia and ethical financial products, look no further. Sapphire Global offers a wide range of financial service offerings from short-term to life and investments. A full service center with all financial requirements under one brand. Our highly skilled and experienced consultants are ready to help protect your financial future. Contact us on 041 001 0184 or visit our website on www.sapphireglobalfs.com. Sapphire Global is an authorized financial services provider.
Southern Africa Dawah Network is a non-profit organization striving to uplift the disadvantaged and empowering through education and dawah. Donate to the SADN centers, the M.A. Motala Islamic Center, as well as our Islamic centers in Amoti, Imtalumi, Botshabelo and Castile. Donate your zakat and millah today. Contact Farooq Sheikh 076 321 0650, Yusuf Mohammadi 072 259 3457, or the SADN head office 031 304 8000. Our account, Standard Bank, account number 050 856 294 for your zakat, or 050 879 790 for your lillah. Dawah through education, education through dawah, the Southern Africa Dawah Network.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness. And every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and free zakat calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
The people of Palestine need your support now. Africa Muslims Agency is on the ground, already providing food, medication, and emergency supplies in Gaza. Donate any amount to Heal Palestine at africamuslimsagency.co.za. Africa Muslims Agency, empowering, educating, inspiring.
to Salam Media via audio stream.
I'm happy I can see all over the world, same workers and students are also marching against the genocide they see in Gaza. And we just want to say there is no real celebration because the same government of the day has retrenched in SAA a lot of workers. It has retrenched a lot of people in post offices. It has retrenched a lot of people in ESCOM. The private companies are also have actually retrenched many workers. So the gains of freedom are actually being reversed. But as ACT and other progressive forces, we are ready to ensure that we defend the gains of freedom, including the rights of workers on May Day, including fighting for peace and freedom and peace and solidarity, as we are saying. Our pillar is about solidarity, it's about prosperity. And we wish all those people around the globe, especially people in Palestine, we say the struggle, aluta continua.
Former party activist, also a former Secretary General of the ANC, is also the former Premier of the Free State, a current leader of the African Congress for Transformation, and that there is Mahashule.
Salam Media, a global voice for humanity. Tune into Salam Media via audio stream.
People don't realize, I think, just how precarious the situation is. And that is why we took the fairly extreme step of shutting down Daily Maverick yesterday just for one day in order to try and make this point to the public. I find that people are shocked when I tell them, for instance, that in media, 70% of the workforce has been lost over the last decade. Those jobs have just vanished. I mean, it's hard, I think, to think of another industry which has been as decimated over such a short period of time. And the reason for that, we all know, is down to what you're saying about social media, about the tech giants. So in the past, media relied heavily on advertising, and businesses would give us advertising, and that was a very revenue stream. Now what tends to happen is that you have a business, you're going to give your advertising spend to Google or to Facebook, and we understand that because, you know, those are where the eyes are, those are where the clicks are. But the result is that there has been this incredible reduction of revenue towards media in a way that is becoming, frankly, unsustainable.
Rebecca Davis from the Daily Maverick.
Salam Media, a global voice for humanity. It's a new beginning. It's a new era. Salam Media, humanitarian journalism.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome back. We are talking with the co-author of the Muslim Voters Guide Part 1, How Should Muslim Voters Decide? He is Maulana Hasan Labuschagne, and let's continue with our discussion by asking about a tool for rating political parties according to Islamic values. You touched on the one part regarding the support for Palestine. I think that is huge as far as we as Muslim voters are concerned. What are the other issues we should be aware of?
Well, like I mentioned, there's a balance between international concerns, such as what is happening to our brothers and sisters in Gaza, and our domestic concerns, which we are all aware of: load shedding, massive education crisis, corruption, large-scale corruption in South Africa, and you know the first category mentioned, international issues, and specifically Gaza would, from the perspective of our tool or our instrument, the Islamicity Index, it would fall under the rubric of justice. So we take justice as the number one consideration when voting, and we allocate, if you see our scorecard within our study, we allocate 10 points to each party for justice, 10 points out of 20. So that's the weightiest metric by which we measure our support. And then following that, we analyze the performance of the parties according to the Maqasidu Sharia, which are the overarching objectives of the Sharia. So these include Hifdud-Din, the conservation of religion; Hifdul-Nafs, the conservation of human life; Hifdul-Aql, the conservation of a sound intellect; Hifdul-Nasl, the conservation of lineage; and Hifdul-Mal, the conservation of wealth. So we look at the parties from this perspective, and we try to analyze as far as we can each party's performance in each of these performance areas.
Subhanallah, well, very well thought through, I might add. And I have no doubt in my mind that people would start applying these principles when they think about voting. How has the Muslim public responded to this guide? I should imagine it's been sent out far and wide.
Well, we released our first document last week on Wednesday, and alhamdulillah, since then it has gained quite a bit of traction, just from people sharing it through WhatsApp. So I believe it has been circulated quite widely. We have received some feedback from ulama and from political analysts, and of course, as we mentioned in our initial document, in the Muslim Voters Guide Part 1, how should Muslim voters decide? We mentioned that we will be, utilizing the advice and the analysis of political analysts as well. And we've been having discussions with political analysts, Muslim political analysts. They've given us some tips and feedback, which is generally positive. And one feature that stands out, or one salient point that stands out in the conversations we've been having with political analysts, is that this is really a pioneering study in South Africa, and both myself and my co-author, Sheikh Anwar Jitam, are very proud of this, alhamdulillah, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our efforts. But generally, the response has been quite well. Of course, there are segments of our community who are going to respond with that old attitude of voting being kufr and voting being shirk, and that Muslims should not participate in this society and in elections. But that was to be expected. Generally, it's been very, very positively received, and we look forward to more interaction and engagement with the community, inshallah.
Subhanallah. Now let's look at how does the Islamicity Index voter scorecard work? Because I think oftentimes people are daunted by the simple act of voting. And I think especially this time around, when we see the number of parties and candidates that are, that have put themselves up for elections, that can be very, very confusing and daunting as well. So talk to us through that.
Yes, so voting is a daunting task. As I mentioned earlier, this specific election, people are calling it our 1994. Some people are going so far as to say that this is going to be our Codesa. So they're imagining, they're assuming that this election will be a complete reconfiguration of the political landscape in South Africa. And, either of those might be true or not. But
and with good reason, because given what's happened over the past so many years, supposedly under the new government, well, the ANC government, we had lots of hopes and dreams, and not all of those were actually realized.
Of course, so people are expecting a change, and with that said, daunting a task as it may be, we have to step up and we have to set higher standards for ourselves as a community. We aspire to be, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us, kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat linnas, that we are the greatest nation from amongst people for various reasons, but two of those being ta'muruna bil ma'ruf wa tanhawna 'anil munkar, that we command good, we enjoin good, and we forbid evil. So that is our task in standing for justice in society as an ummah. So we have to take this daunting task, and we have to set higher standards for ourselves. And part of the major consideration that we had when creating this tool, when creating this instrument, is that we want to prepare the Muslim voter, the average Muslim on the street, to be able to look at this task of voting from a Sharia perspective, and to gain the confidence that, look, I can make a decision as important as this, and I can do so in line with the Sharia, in line with this law that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given. So we want to inspire confidence in the average Muslim that, they are not stupid. They do not have to outsource their thinking to other people. They can make this decision. And this is just a small step in that direction, inshallah.
And I'd like to add to that. I can make a difference with my vote as a Muslim. Alhamdulillah. We're going to have to wrap up in a minute or two, and inshallah, I do hope when part 2 is available, we'll have a further discussion on the Muslim vote going forward. Having said that, then, what is the way forward?
Well, the way forward is for Muslims to embrace our tradition, this more than 1,400-year-old tradition of Quran and Sunnah that we've held on to. And this tradition of ours doesn't ignore our life in this society or in any society. It addresses any issue, like I mentioned earlier. So in our Sharia, there has been, a multitude of writings, a real massive collection of writings by our ulama, by our scholars on siyasa sharia, siyasa being politics. So politics in light of the Sharia, or Islamic politics, and a lot of these were authored in a time before the sort of secular world even existed. But that tradition has continued, and Muslim scholars have continued to look at the world through this lens. So to embrace that part of our tradition, which has been sadly neglected, returning to our tradition is important when we look at the vote, and that is the first step forward, is embracing our tradition as Muslims and approaching this time at the ballot box that we have on the 29th of May, approaching it from that standpoint, that we want to make the decision that will be most pleasing to Allah, and we are going to try our best to expend every effort in doing so. And hopefully, inshallah, that is what this tool will allow Muslims to do.
Ameen, Ameen, Thumma Ameen. Wonderful talking with you this morning, and I do look forward to talking with you as soon as the part 2 is available. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your efforts, and you go well. Assalamu alaikum to you. That was Sheikh Hasan Labuschagne, co-author of the Muslim Voters Guide, Part 1. How should Muslim voters decide? Fascinating and interesting at the same time. We look forward to talking with him again when part 2 is available. It is exactly 2 after 9 o'clock, and let's switch over to our news correspondent. And that, of course, is you, Zaid Jadwat, with the Bulletin of the Morning.